Welcome back to Reps and Resilience. In this video we're going to be taking a deep dive into the shoulder muscles and joint, and we're going to be having a look at what the research is telling us about how we should best be training this muscle. Now, we're going to start with the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is built with four key muscles. On the anterior side, so on the front of your body, you've got the subscapularis. The subscapularis is responsible for internal rotation of the shoulder, so bringing your shoulder in towards the midline of your body. We also have on the top of our shoulder the supraspinatus, and that is responsible for abduction, so lifting your arm up away from your body. Then we have the infraspinatus, which is on the posterior side of your body, and we also have the teres minor, and these are responsible for external rotation of the shoulder. The important thing to remember is these muscles are really important for avoiding injury and keeping our shoulder secure during any sort of movement. We're going to have a look a little bit at what the actual joint itself looks like. So the shoulder is a ball and socket joint. We have the head of the humerus, which sits inside the cavity of the glenoid, so that's the glenohumeral joint. And this joint is a very mobile joint, which means we have lots of movement in it, but it's not a very stable joint. And that's because only about 30% of the head of the humerus actually makes contact with the cavity of the glenoid. And we also have a very small lip, so it doesn't overlap very much. It actually just sits very slightly with a small ridge. And then a quick look at the delts. So the delts are the part of the shoulder that we can see. They're made up of three main parts: the posterior delt, which is on the rear, the lateral delt, and we also have the anterior delt, which sits on the front, and that's responsible for the internal rotation of the shoulder. And just to clarify a couple of terms, so abduction is when we're lifting our arms up towards the sky, and adduction is when we're bringing our arms back down towards the middle of our body. And it's a very similar thing on the transverse plane, so that's horizontally. When we're moving our arms back away from our body, we are abducting them, and when we're moving our arms back towards our midline, we are adducting them.
What does the research actually show us about exercise selection? This 2013 study tested various strength training exercises and how they activated different parts of the deltoid. They used electromyography, so EMG, to test this. So in simple terms, when you move a muscle, your brain sends electrical signals through your nerves, and they have tested the strength of these signals to see how much the muscles were being activated for each one. So the results of this study showed the maximum voluntary isometric contraction. They've displayed that as a percentage. The front delt was most activated by the Smith machine shoulder press. The side delt was most activated by the lateral raise, and the rear delt was most activated by a reverse fly. A 2014 study expanded on this and tested a different 10 exercises using EMG again to determine which exercises were activating different parts of the delts. For the front delt, we can see that the dumbbell shoulder press came out on top, and the significance of this is it's another overhead pressing movement. This one didn't target free weights versus machine, so don't take it on that value, but you can see the value of a pressing movement. For your mid delt, you've got the lateral raise coming in really high up there again, which is consistent with the first study. This study also tested a 45-degree incline row, and that came out surprisingly higher than I would have expected. Good compound exercise there, and might be one worthwhile paying a bit more attention to. Notice that the asterisks above the top show the statistical significance, so because the top two don't have an asterisk, there's actually no statistical significance between them, so they're essentially the same as far as these stats are concerned. And for your rear delt, we had the seated lateral raise come out on top, although it might be worth noting on this one that the seated lateral raise that they used was actually this exercise, rather than this probably more modern and popular version, which we often see used now. Again, worth noting that that 45-degree incline row came out very high. So these are the results for the second study, and we can see the common themes that a shoulder press above your head is going to be your key for the front delt. Side delt and incline row is a good shout out there, and also the side lateral raise is still an excellent exercise, and the reverse fly again dominating the rear delt. What the studies are telling us is we need some sort of overhead pressing movement for our front delt. We haven't got the research yet to tell us which one's exactly the best, so personal preference is up to you. The lateral raise and the fly variations are looking pretty dominant for your medial and rear delts. The most interesting takeaway for me is that 45-degree incline row. Now be careful with the dumbbells, because once they get quite big they're going to start getting in the way and you're going to hit the bench. So I'd be recommending swapping it out for a chest supported T-bar row. That's a handy compound exercise which is going to hit your side and rear delts, and it's also going to get your upper back working at the same time. It's going to be really efficient, and you can see how highly it's activating muscles in all those areas. And finally, let's remember that these exercises are fantastic for building our delts, but if we want to avoid injury to our shoulders, we need to remember to train our rotator cuff. And here's an example of an exercise that you can use to do that, making sure that we're keeping our elbow nice and tucked into the side of our body like you can see on the right hand side there, and that we swap hands so that we're training both external and internal rotation of the rotator cuff.
Hopefully you got some value out of this video today. Thanks again for coming and supporting Reps and Resilience.